BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Phil Goodlad, your host of the Scottish Football Podcast today, Wednesday the 28th of February, and all eyes are on the capital.
Civic doesn't get on, just another chance, another goal! Ellie Ewan scores again! Bashiri's lost up the other end here, Shanklin's in, scores!
That's right, the small matter of an Edinburgh derby to look forward to. That's not the only big game, though.
Watson hurls the ball into the penalty area. It's in! It's in! Come on, I can't do the goal! Dreadful defending from Rangers!
After the opening day defeat, will Rangers get revenge as they return to Rugby Park? Canada keep scoring as Dundee visits Celtic Park. And
Toyota Olasanya's beat the goalkeeper! And St Mirren have a late equaliser!
what does last night's Dingwall draw mean for Ross County's survival hopes?
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
Lots to get through. I'm joined this morning by Kevin Thomson, former Hibs, Rangers and Dundee midfielder, and Lee Miller, former, and I take a deep breath, Hearts, Falkirk, Livy and Aberdeen striker. Gentlemen, good morning to you.
Morning, mate.
I have to say it's absolutely bizarre speaking to two men who I had in my junior championship manager side all those years ago, and you both came through the ranks and played really, really well. So this is just a tad strange. Anyway, listen, lots to get through with you both. Before that, let's batter through the latest Scottish football headlines. Hibs shareholders have voted in favour of American billionaire Bill Foley's £6 million investment at the club's AGM. St Mirren scored late in Dingwall to make it one apiece and deny Ross County a crucial victory in their Premiership survival bid. Raith Rovers are now level on points with Dundee United at the top of the Championship. Rovers drew at home to Morton, United losing 2-0 to Airdrie at Tannadice. Elsewhere, Queen's Park annihilated Arbroath 6-0. Ayr United edged a 7-goal thriller to get the better of Partick Thistle. In League One, Stirling Albion and Hamilton drew 0 apiece. And after losing to Finland on penalties in the final of the Pinatar Cup, the Scotland women's national team manager, Pedro Martinez Losa, says the real pressure is now to qualify for the Euros. Gentlemen, we'll get to tonight's games in a moment. Firstly, Kevin Thomson, Ross County St Mirren. A frustrating result for Don Cowie and County, given that they were just minutes from securing a vital victory.
Yeah, and I watched Ross County at Don's first game at Ibrox, actually. I was doing the lounges, so I got to watch them, obviously. I think Rangers had 43 shots on goal, 23 on target, so it was a wee bit of Alamo, to say the least. But you could see subtle changes. He made big changes, obviously, in the starting lineup, so I actually spent a bit of time in the summer with him on my pro licence. Really well spoken, Don. Knows the game, had a great career. He'll know the club and the players like the back of his hand. So he'll probably feel a bit aggrieved. I seen the big penalty, obviously, incident and the kind of talking point between obviously Faddy and Boydie, obviously on Sky. But I think probably when you get so close and you're in that type of situation, you just want to try and get over the line. So I'm pretty sure he'll be disappointed. But the flip it, listen, it might be a good point in the end. I always think if you can hang in there at the kind of business end of the season, when you get the split fixtures, the 5 fixtures with 15 points available are so important, and it'll be interesting to see how it pans out, because they're obviously naturally in a relegation battle, but I think they've certainly got a unique environment. We're going up there. I think it's a difficult place to go, so that could certainly hold in their favour.
The disappointment would be for Ross County, but I guess Lee Miller, as Kevin says there, they didn't lose, which means come the end of the season, that point could be vital.
Yeah, exactly, because you look, obviously, I spend a lot of time watching Motherwell, and they just lose out against Celtic with last-minute goals, and Dunkirk, I'm sure, would have been worried about that, but it's another point on board. See if you keep racking up these points and draws and stay in games. And obviously, Tomo says about the subtle changes. Don Cowie's been up there for a long time. He understands the squad. He'll know the squad inside out. So just making those changes and understanding and knowing players and what they can do. He'll have built up relationships over the past season or two with these players. So, no, I think he'll do really well there. I think he'll do really well. Not too well, hopefully, because I'm looking at Motherwell, obviously. Staying away from that relegation dogfight. But no, I think for St Mirren, obviously them losing out to Livingston away from home, and Stevie Robinson has that wee spat with the fan. He would have been desperate for a performance and the result up there and getting the point. is probably a good point, because I kind of seen most of the second half of the game and it wasn't a great spectacle. So it's one of them you want to come away with something, because it is, like Thomas says, it's a difficult place to go, and that's what Ross County need to make that a difficult place to go for teams to go up there and find it hard.
Just quickly on the Championship, I mean, that's a big result for United losing at home and Raith drawing. Kevin, when are we going to speak about your old pal Scott Brown, more of a manager and less of a managerial bounce he's getting out of his team? I mean, that's another barrel load of goals last night Ayr slotted in, beating Partick Thistle. They're going well under Scott Brown.
I've obviously not watched them yet. I'm going to hopefully go and spend a day or two with them. But I think the one thing that you see for a lot of the comments on social media, etc., is they are resilient now. They've got a bit about them. They're battling. They're working hard, and I think it's hard. Even though he's my mate, when you do go into places, you do have that natural bounce. But I certainly think when he got the job, when you think of the start they made, obviously caretaker manager, when he got announced to beat Arbroath Friday night. And then the following week, they obviously beat Queen's Park, the two teams that were obviously down right next to them in the bottom of the league. So he'll certainly be looking up. I know Whitty obviously really well as well. He knows the boys really well. So they'll have that mentality where I'm certainly not thinking that they'll be looking over their shoulder. It won't be the type of environment that they want to create with the boys. They want to be saying, listen, the playoffs ain't far out of our grasp. We want to keep on pushing. We want to keep on being hard to beat. We want to be in every game. I think that's what he said after the Dundee United game, like when you're playing the so-called best teams in the league, if you can compete and you can be in these games, then everybody knows how tight and how difficult that league is. If you can be on the wrong end of a few sore ones, it seems to be that you end up drifting away at the bottom, whereas if you can kind of have that momentum and stay in games, you seem to be able to flip them. They 50-50 games, sometimes they go for you, sometimes they don't. Because the league's so tight, the points can be really valuable. 3 points here, 3 points there. Listen, I'm not so sure any team in the league, apart from Dougie and Morton, are capable of going and winning 10, 12, 15 games in a bounce. So I think when you're picking up a couple of wins a month, it can be so important where the league standings look.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.
Guys, let's head to Tynecastle, under the lights, an Edinburgh derby. We speak so often about the big two meeting in Glasgow, and we speak as well about, the Manchester derby. We go to the San Siro and speak about the derbies in Italy. Having played in the Edinburgh derby, what is it likely in a small, tight Tynecastle, under the lights, against Hibs, that sort of Wednesday night atmosphere? Maybe not as far as the crowd's concerned, the biggest derby, but as far as atmosphere goes and the intense rivalry, it has to be something special.
Yeah, as like you say, the atmosphere, that I loved playing at Tynecastle. I just think the crowd are right on top of you. Obviously, when all the away fans are allowed in stadiums, it makes it better. But they're always fiercely contested games. You've seen the last game they played there at Easter Road. It was 1-0, I think it was in 90 plus minutes. Shanklin scores that absolute worldie. So there's not much between them in terms of that. But Hearts will get into this, and obviously they've just had a batter at Ibrox, so they'll have a point to prove because they were on a really good run of form. And Stephen A. Smith's done an incredible job there because he was getting called out when he first went in and wasn't really getting results, and then he's picked it up and he's turned it around. So he'll have something to prove there, yeah.
On the battering at Ibrox, does Naismith just park that and say, look, it's gone, we move on? Or does he actually analyse the game and try and put right what happened at the weekend?
It's a tough one, that, because you want to dissect, as a manager, as a coach, you want to dissect things, you want to make things right, but sometimes, yourself, Rangers can turn anybody over, Rangers and Celtic can turn anybody over like that, and Tom was at the game and obviously said it was a convincing, could have been more. So I think possibly you park that because they are in such a good run of form, and especially at home. I think they've won the last 4 before that, or 5 before that possibly. So they are on a good run, although they've had that bad result against Rangers.
Which makes, Kevin Thomson, what happens tonight as far as Hibs is concerned all the more interesting, because you would think on the one hand, facing a side that's just been battered 5-0 is a good time to play them. But then the backlash at home that Hearts will be feeling, being fueled to go into against Hibs, you almost fear for Hibs going across Edinburgh and taking them on tonight.
I kind of echo what Lee said. Nazy's, I know what he's like. He'll have that mentality, that drive, that bite about him as an individual. So he'll be hurting for it. And so obviously going back to one of his clubs that he'd done obviously ever so well for when he was a Rangers player. So it's always, a lonely place standing on that sideline. Probably, I'm not so sure, ashamed or felt sorry for himself would be the right terminology to use, but I've been there myself. You feel like kind of lonely place, big stadium, Ibrox rocking, and everything's going quite well. He's, as Lee said, probably come under a lot of fire for the Hearts faithful when he first got the job, and they did have disappointments, but to go on the run that they've got, and they almost have third sewn up. Only before the game on Saturday, people were talking about maybe going to Ibrox and winning and maybe being in a title race, depending how Celtic obviously got on at Motherwell on Sunday. So it's amazing how you go in there, get beat 5-0, can change people's perspective so quickly. Typical Scottish football. But
you're not suggesting that a week is a long time in Scottish football, are you, Kevin?
And obviously, I know I'm pretty sure they play Celtic on Sunday as well, don't they? So I think tonight's game, we obviously had to get a good result against Dundee. It's intriguing to see how it goes, because unfortunately, we live in an industry that if Hibs go and get a result tonight, and potentially things pan out on Sunday, it's amazing how you can be doing so brilliant, and then all of a sudden within a week of football, people could look at it in such a different perspective. So I think it'll be a tight game. They always are. They're fiercely contested, like Lee said, and under the lights, massive game. One team has a great result, the other one has a disappointing one. So it's such a hard thing to try and predict. But I certainly think there'll be goals in it. I don't know why, but I've got a funny feeling there'll be goals in it this time.
Given the mammoth fee we're giving you, I do want a prediction from you on this podcast. Who wins tonight? One word answer.
Hi,
Lee?
Hearts.
How predictable we are. Listen, all the back pages this morning, I think it's the Daily Record, has mocked up Rugby Park as a danger zone. It has red and black tape all around it because Philippe Clement says, look, this is a real dangerous game for our championship bid tonight at Rugby Park. And this is what I'm really looking forward to, not just the McInnes effect against Rangers, just the fact that Kilmarnock are playing really, really good football at the moment. And at home, having beaten Rangers earlier in the season, they'll fancy their chances tonight.
Oh, they definitely will. Definitely will. Especially down there. And I think, everybody's talking about the pitch and stuff, but Derek McInnes has recruited really well this season. He obviously get promoted with Kilmarnock, had his time to kind of survive basically, and now he's started to bring his players in, ship a few out, and he's got his squad where he wants it to be, and he's very effective at what he does. He's a really good manager, and I think they'll make it really tough for them. Really tough.
Quick prediction from both of you on this one. Lee, start Rangers Kilmarnock.
I think Rangers will just edge it. I do.
Kevin, do you see your old side now firmly in their strides after beating Hearts so convincingly at the weekend? They'll carry that form into Rugby Park?
Yeah, I think momentum's massive in football, and I think they've got that bit between their teeth. Listen, Dell's done an unbelievable job. He's, as Lee says, he's recruited well. To be able to bring in boys like Greg Stewart, in January, try and strengthen your hand. When you look at the squad that he's got at his disposal now, and the pitch, obviously, I think is something that they're trying to address, but it does make things difficult, albeit you could argue for both teams. I'm pretty sure Dell would want a nice grass pitch as well, but it is what it is. You need to deal with it. There's no point crying about it. I'm pretty sure nobody will. Just touch wood, nobody gets injured, obviously, that's first and foremost, but listen, you get injured crossing the street, like I know, so what I would say is it's probably the one. I think Rangers fans, listening to them on Saturday at Ibrox, would think that if they can go down to Kilmarnock with the form that they're in, with the difficult pitch conditions and win, I think they think that the momentum would definitely be on the side. Listen, it's only one game, there's a long way to go, but I certainly think this is as big a test as Rangers will have.
I take it you're for Rangers tonight then?
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game. I think it's. I do actually think it's an easier game for Rangers because Kilmarnock can go in so well. I think if Kilmarnock were in a relegation battle and it was a blowing, wet, murky night, it makes it that wee bit different. But I think because Kilmarnock are going really well, I think they'll have a go. And I think it might actually play into Rangers' hands a wee bit more than it potentially looking different if Kilmarnock were in a relegation battle.
Celtic Dundee, another one to keep an eye on tonight. I mean, it's almost like you pitch up at Parkhead these days and you wonder what performance you're going to see from the champions. I mean, if it's tight after an hour, 70 minutes, and the home fans get restless, you can imagine it'll be a nervy old night.
Yeah, 100%. And again, you can go to the manager with Dundee. Tony Docherty's done a tremendous job there. Again, recruitment. He's got bodies in who he trusts, who work hard and are playing to a style, and they all understand and know what they want to do. And he's had a tremendous season this season for his first season in full management. He's done great. So it is a nervy night for Celtic, obviously off the back of not being convincing at Fir Park. Yes, they get the job done and they got over the line, and Ida I thought was tremendous when he came on. So I think he'll probably feature up top. Was strong, physical, held the ball in, got his goals. But like you say, if it goes 20 minutes, half an hour, and it's nothing each, and Dundee are doing okay, the fans, they don't give you much time. They could turn and possibly affect the players' confidence levels. But I'm sure Brendan Rodgers will have a game plan in place, and I think they will win the game. It won't be comfortable. I think it will be one of those kind of 1-0 victories, but I think they will shade it. And it's a title race, which is great from a neutral point of view. It's if one team slips up, the other team has to go and produce, and it's pressure. It's high pressure, and that's what these big players want to play with, the added feel of pressure of winning a title.
Kevin, Aberdeen, St Johnstone. Neil Warnock in the papers this morning saying that if he wanted a holiday, he wouldn't be going to the northeast of Scotland.
Listen, he's a character, isn't he? He's certainly a left curveball. I'm not so sure anyone could have predicted that, but relegation battle, really.
Do you think Aberdeen are in a relegation battle?
Oh, 100%. I think they'd be naive to not think that they are. I think the harsh reality is they're good enough and they're more than capable enough with the squad. Listen, what does the size of the club mean if you're underperforming? They're a brilliant club, a huge club with a huge fan base. But the harsh reality is they've underachieved this season. And when you look at the points on the board, if they don't start picking them up quickly, then top six is certainly. And Aberdeen are a big scalp, so there'll be an extra motivation for these teams in the bottom six to want to raise your game against Aberdeen. If there's that extra 1%, if there's that extra couple percent when the Old Firm come to town, or as you play against your rivals in a derby, i.e. Hibs Hearts, there's certainly a wee bit more prestige within Aberdeen. So I think that brings a wee bit added pressure on that group of players and obviously the club. But of course they have to be in it. By the way, if they're not thinking that, then I would be worried, because they are in a relegation battle and they need to start picking up points quickly.
The other game tonight sees Motherwell travel to Livingston. Kevin, there's a boy that's playing for Motherwell just now. I don't know if he's caught your eye, a boy called Lennon Miller. His old man was all right on the park as well. A lot of speculation linking young Lennon with bigger and better things. If you were his dad, what would you be advising him?
He's a brilliant talent. I've actually seen him. So I seen Lennon and Bailey Rice when I was a coach when I was a kid. I'm saying I was kids when they were kids. Sorry, even though they still are kids. I used to take those sixes, and obviously Lennon and Bailey, albeit they sometimes used to play up and their kind of young academy careers fledged quite quickly compared to obviously that age band. But they were talking players when I first went to Ibrox to take the youths. So I kind of naturally you build up a player bank and obviously I knew he's Lee's boy, played obviously with Lee and good relationships. There's that wee incline in you that you want to see people's kids do well when you kind of know them, if you know what I mean. So what I would say is he's as exciting a talent I've seen in the country. Not because he's a midfielder and I'm a sucker for a midfielder. I just think he can do everything. I think he's. I've watched him at Ibrox live a couple of times. I've seen him on the telly, and even taken away for the nice, media attention that he got off the back of his nice wee flick at the weekend and his assist. I just think he's, for a boy to have, listen, he's got a great support mechanism in his dad, and that's without blowing too much smoke up Lee, but he'll be grounded, he'll be a good kid, and being humble and respectful and hard working can take you a long way. And listen, he's got abundance of talent, and everybody knows how big an advocate I am for youth. So let's hope he can go on and really, really create some good memories as an individual, because I'm pretty sure his career is going to take him pretty far.
Yeah, Lee, I won't embarrass you by waxing lyrical about what is one of the youngest and brightest stars in Scottish football. I just wonder quickly and finally, as a dad, can you actually enjoy watching Lennon play at the weekends?
Yes, I enjoy it, but I get really nervous and anxious. I just want to see him do well, and I know how good he is and how good he can be. And just because he's such a good kid, he is, like Thomas said, he's humble, he's chilled out, he knows how good he is, but he's not in your face arrogant about it. But no, I love watching my kids playing football, I really do, and obviously Lennon being a pro and doing so well just now, and everybody's talking about him. It's no, I'm a proud dad, but I'm a very bad spectator because I'm commentating through the game and saying you should be here, and that's why I've been asked a couple of times to do co-coms on his games, and I've kind of refused it because I like to play a player cam my son and just watch him, and we'll speak about it after the game, and I want to watch everything he's doing. In the Aberdeen game that he got injured, I called it early bells. It was first 10 minutes in the game. He just wasn't moving properly. I'm thinking, you need to get him off. But no, I just like to watch him and just watch him enjoying playing football, because that's what he plays football for. He wants to be the best football possible. He's not in it for the glitz and glam and money, and he wants to be the best footballer he can be, and that's just a credit to himself.
A warning tonight: if you're at Almond Vale and you see a man under a hood chuntering away at the sidelines, it's Lee Miller commentating on his son. Guys, I mentioned earlier the focus now for the Scotland's women's national side is on the Euro qualifiers. Still lots of questions about the direction the side are heading in under Pedro Martinez Losa, I think it's fair to say, after losing on penalties in the final of the Pinatar Cup to Finland. Amy Canavan has been our reporter out in Spain with the Scotland squad, and she's been in camp with the team for the tournament.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
Scotland failed to get their hands on the Pinatar Cup trophy for a second time after defeat by debutants Finland in a penalty shootout. While Scotland dominated the encounter with the Finns, it ended in disappointment and with a few more questions again over this side than answered. The real talking point, though, occurred moments before the opener from Finland, when Erin Cuthbert replied to instructions from the bench with, "That's not the game plan." From comfort to confusion, their panic was really punished. What does this say about the direction of the women's national team in such a monumental year? Well, that's up for discussion. Pedro Martinez Losa remained buoyant post-match, going as far to say he was very happy with the performance. But fans really do not share that level of positivity. Yep, the gusty conditions out here in Pinatar affected play and spectating, I must add. But Scotland lacked zest and potency in both games. And bear in mind here, they were the highest ranked nation competing. The draw for the Euro 2025 qualifiers is Tuesday, with the first game taking place in April. Martinez Losa is saying cheerio to his players for now, until then. But they'll have plenty to ponder as the pressure, if it hasn't already, truly starts to kick in. And are you after some more reaction? Of course you are. Well, there's plenty more from the Pinatar Cup on the Behind the Goals podcast with Captain Rachel Corsey and former international Leanne Creighton. That's live now on BBC Sounds, so head across to that once you've finished with this edition of the Scottish Football Podcast.
Amy Canavan there, the Scotland national side now focusing on the women's qualifiers for the Euros that's upcoming this spring. That's all we've got time for on the Daily Football Podcast. My thanks to Kevin Thomson and Lee Miller for running us through the games tonight and just generally chatting about all things Scottish football. As ever, such a short period of time we have. As ever, we could go on for much, much longer when it comes to our beautiful game. Jonathan Sutherland, Ian McCall and Killian Sheridan will be back tomorrow with reaction and analysis to all of tonight's games. And as ever on a Thursday, they'll be taking a look into the Championship. Plenty going on there. If you've got any questions for them, Scottish Football at bbc.co.uk is where you'll find them. For now, though, enjoy your football tonight, and we'll speak again soon.
The Scotland Rugby Podcast is now available every Tuesday. Join me, Andy Burke and Tom English. Just head to BBC Sounds and subscribe to the Scotland Rugby Podcast.
It's just seismic stuff.
There's bucket hats as well.
Oh, really? Yeah. Is this a rugby podcast or is this a fashion podcast?
Why can't it be a bit of both?
Rugby. Let's get on to rugby. There's a lot to be excited about. Today's guest, John McGuigan.
Clubs are at the absolute bedrock of everything Scottish rugby's about.
The Rugby Sports Sound Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.
You cannot help but be so excited. It's going to be the centre of the rugby universe.
BBC Sounds.